takes a minute. I don't understand why.
Yeah.
Like right now, it says we're live. So we are live. Week 4 of the NFL. Bigger, brighter sports and Mykel Sports back together again for one of the craziest weeks that I've remembered. But every week's crazy in the NFL. It's just that a lot of bad teams won this week.
Right.
And like I was saying to you earlier, a lot of bad teams won. A lot of good teams lost. And a couple teams kind of let it be known where they're at in this, in this game. And, while you guys are watching the video, we appreciate you guys checking us out. But do us a favor while you're watching. Remember, hit the like button, subscribe button, and comment below. And also hit that bell notification next to the subscribe button so you can get notifications when we have new videos out there. As you guys know, I am Big Tuna from Bigger and Brighter Sports, and this is Mike from Mykel Sports. Mike, let them know where they can find you.
Yeah, guys, you can always find me on Instagram at Mykel Sports _YouTube, my Twitter at Mykel Sports. I know a lot of, if any of you guys out there are Packers fans, I post Packers content all the time, retweeting Packers content. If you don't have a lot of friends on Twitter that are Packers fans, you'll definitely find some if you follow me because I retweet a lot of other people's stuff. So definitely find me there. And then also, if you like TikTok, I'm on TikTok at MykelSports.YouTube.
Yeah, and Mike's a big Packers fan, and I'm a big Raiders fan, so we always cover those two teams in the beginning. In the middle of the show. This week it's a little bittersweet because one team won, one team lost, but that happened for us in the first week. So There you go. We had 2 weeks of undefeated. So it was
So I just realized something whenever you just said that I'm a Packers fan, you're a Raiders fan, which obviously we've both known since the start of this last season. But what I really actually just realized is our biggest common ground would be Charles Woodson, would it not? Like we both love Charles Woodson. I didn't.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
I mean, it's funny. The one thing I can remember that linked the Packers and the Raiders was you might have been too young for this, but it was a receiver named Jajuan Walker, where the Packers had him, and he played great for them, and then he played great for Denver, and it was probably one of the last signings that Al Davis ever did. That was just like a big head scratcher where he caught like 15 balls and 2 touchdowns, and they paid him like $60 million, as a receiver, and he just folded under pressure, But it's just it makes me laugh sometimes because it's like as much as Al Davis, is gone, I can still see the remnants of him. Well, son owns the team, but you understand why I'm saying it's they make some bonehead decisions sometimes. But yeah, so the week was very strange. We're going to start off right now with a very strange game where the Giants go into New Orleans and defeat the Saints in overtime, 27-21. Daniel Jones had 400 yards, 402 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. Saquon Barkley finally had a okay game we had a good game with over 130 116 all-purpose yards and 2 touchdowns. Kenny Galladay came out of his shell, but the big one here for the Giants was Tooney. The first-round pick came out with 6 catches, for 78 yards, which is exciting for the Giants because I'm not going to lie to you, Mike, I forgot they drafted a wide receiver this early. I forgot they drafted a wide receiver.
Yeah, I did. I remember seeing a meme last week. It was like everyone who sees this post has more receiving yards than Giants first-round pick Kadarius Toney.
Yeah, I just don't remember that.
He had -3 receiving yards as of last week. So
so he's got some yards now. One of the most underrated players in my eyes right now. The Giants have 3 of them, and that's Logan Ryan, Reggie Ragland, and Adoree Jackson. They're kind of misfits, but Logan Ryan has been tackling everybody as of late. And, on the Saints side, Jameis Winston had 226 and a touchdown. Alvin Kamara had 130 all-purpose yards. Callaway had 74 yards receiving. Ty Montgomery, who hasn't done much, came out with a few catches. And on the defensive side, Marcus Williams had an interception. They didn't have any sacks. So, let's get into this game. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, I mean, Daniel Jones is absolutely slinging the ball. And from the beginning of the season, I've said Daniel Jones is not the guy. The Giants are going to end up drafting a quarterback. this and that. And I've actually kind of kept with that throughout the first 3 games of the season because I still believe that he was going to have his downfall. But he's really starting to prove me wrong. He is doing really, really good. Saquon Barkley also is kind of starting to get back into the rhythm. Last week, he had a better game than he did the week before, and then the week before that. And he's just starting to progress a little bit, and he had a great game this past weekend. One big thing that I did start to notice is that Jajuan Johnson, former Oregon Duck, is actually doing really good after moving to being a tight end. He had a touchdown catch this past week, so that was good for him. Winston and the Saints, I think that they're just fine. Nothing to really worry about. They did lose to the Panthers, and then they did lose last night against the Giants, but I don't think that it's anything to worry about. It just kind of makes you wonder about the Green Bay game. Like, how did they just absolutely crush the Packers when they didn't really blow out the Patriots last week. They did lose to the Panthers, and then they lost to the Saints. I mean, that's just kind of interesting. But it was great to see the Giants win. Good comeback, great fourth quarter effort to make it happen. And I was so happy to see the Giants because my roommate is a Giants fan. He was excited to see them get that first dub of the season. So I was happy too. Good win for the Giants. I was happy to see it.
Is your roommate from New York?
No, he's a big Eli Manning fan. I think his dad is an Eagles fan, and so he's a Giants fan.
Gotcha.
I think that's the theory. I'd have to ask him after that.
I like that though. That's I like that kind of stuff. Listen, this is my opinion about the game. Great for the Giants, but I think that what makes a lot of people think the Saints are great is that revolving door at quarterback, and I think it's time for them to just stick with one.
I agree.
And from the highlights that I saw, Taysom Hill, he threw an interception.
It was ugly too. It was underthrown. Bad. It was a bad
underthrown. But here's the thing: he also caught 2 passes and ran the ball 6 times, and he got 2 touchdowns. Why not just keep him that way? I get that it's like, well, you can screw him up by thinking that he's going to throw it, but well, that's great. But just keep him at running back.
Well, I think I agree with you to a certain extent. I agree with you like 90%. The one thing I do want to say is, I think that they should let Taysom Hill throw the ball. He can throw the ball, but I don't think that he should be dropping back to pass. I think it should be more of like a, hey,
you're playing
in the game. You can get the defense on their on their heels by saying, hey, this guy could run an RPO. Taysom Hill should not be throwing the football over 50 yards.
No.
He should not be winding up and throwing a go route or a post or a flag route. Like, this guy should not be throwing passes like that whatsoever. Make him throw some RPOs, things like that.
Basically, what he's saying is that they need to put Taysom Hill in sort of a gadget sort of situation where are you back? They need to put him in a gadget situation. What's that?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah. That's what I was saying.
Yeah, no, it's just like I said, it's weird that, all of a sudden, they got Jameis Winston in there, everything's working, then they bring in Taysom Hill, and sometimes it worked, but, sometimes it just did, and I just think that, I don't know, as a quarterback, I used to play quarterback, I would have hated getting taken out like every third, fourth play. And, I didn't watch the whole game, so I don't know. But, still, Giants get their first win of the season. Not too bad. Against a good team. It's not like it's a bad team. So,
the Giants aren't as bad as people think. The Giants have a lot of talent. They just haven't been getting the wins. It was good to see them get a win yesterday, though.
Oh, no, absolutely. Absolutely. Next game we're looking at here is Kansas City goes to Philly and was losing going into the second quarter, and then just took off from there. Patrick Mahomes had 5 touchdowns, 1 interception, also had, I believe, 26 rushing yards. Edwards-Helaire had 114 career or all-purpose yards and a touchdown. Darren Williams came out with a touchdown as well. Tyreek Hill had himself a game with 11 catches for 186 yards and 3 touchdowns. And after that, really no one else did anything there except for Fortson and the Edwards-Helaire caught receiving touchdowns. Michael Dana had two sacks for them, and so did Snead as well. And then on the Philadelphia side, Jalen Hurts had 387 with 2 touchdowns, which doesn't seem that bad.
Yeah.
47 yards rushing. He was their leading rusher, though, which is tough. They did have Kenneth Gainwell did score a rushing touchdown. Devontae Smith had 7 catches for 122 yards. Good to see that coming from him. Zach Ertz was their next leading pass catcher, which I like to see because a lot of people have forgotten about him. So good to see with Smith getting some yards there. Hargrave got himself a sack. And
shout out to Hargrave. Shout out to Javon Hargrave.
Where is he from, Oregon?
No, my last name is Hargrave.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
And Eric Wilson, their linebacker, got the interception for that game. Not much to say with this game. I mean, go ahead and
no, I mean, not really. It was great to see Tyreek Hill have a good game. I mean, great to a certain extent. I'm a fan of Tyreek Hill, and he had his biggest game in a while. I mean, let's be honest. He hasn't had a great season thus far. He hasn't had, the big yard plays or anything like that. And last year in the Super Bowl, he wasn't that great. So this is his first big game in a while. The Chiefs defense definitely has some holes. They're a very beatable team. This Eagles team is not very good at all, but they kept up with the Chiefs for the most part. They looked pretty good. They held their own. Obviously, the Chiefs offense kind of just blew it out of the water later. The later on the game went. But a lot of bright spots for the Eagles. Jalen Hurts didn't look terrible. I think that Smith and Raygor, too. People forget about Raygor, but both of those guys have really bright futures for that wideout position in Philadelphia. Overall, not a great game. Not really a fun game to watch. But definitely some key points is that, the Eagles did not look that bad. And I don't think that the Chiefs really looked that good on defense either. So.
Listen, the Chiefs are if they lost this game, there would be a lot more talking about the Chiefs here. But they came out, they handled business. That's what they were supposed to do. Really nothing more to say about that. The Chiefs got up somewhat big, but, then again, this is the Chiefs we expect. And once again, the AFC West and the NFC West are probably the toughest divisions in this league.
Agreed. Yeah.
Both divisions are probably going to produce 3 to 4 playoff teams each. So it's going to be a fun year for AFC and NFC West fans. I don't know if I consider it fun, but
right.
Whatever. Moving on to the next game. Before we get to that, I just want to say Matthew J. Evans has said hello to us. What's going on? Javon Walker comment. I remember thinking he was a Packer too. Yes, he was a Packer. Upset wins by the Giants. Good game by Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley. Mahomes had an awesome game. Same with Edward Shelaire and Tyreek. Cool win by the Chiefs. It was cool, but fuck them. I hate the Chiefs so much. Moving on to the next game here. The Bills embarrassed the Texans, 40-0. The crazy thing is it was 16-0 going into the third quarter, and then they shot off. I'm sorry, not 16-0. It was 21-0 or 19-0, and then all of a sudden, Bills scored 3 touchdowns in the end, which I don't know. I don't know if I like that as a fan to have some team just dismantle a team when they know that this team has no chance of doing anything. And Ricky Seven has come in with saying "fuck the Chiefs." Yes, you are very correct, my friend. The stats stuff does not look great here for the Texans. Mills had 87 yards passing with 4 interceptions. Ingram had 24 rushing yards. David Johnson had 21. Cooks had 47 yards receiving. On defense, there was 1 interception by Johnson and 1 sack by Merciless. Other than that, it was just bad. Yeah. 87 yards and 4 picks. That sounds like Nathan Peterman style. Yeah. On the Bills side, Josh Allen had 248 with 2 touchdowns and 1 interception, added 41 rushing yards. Singletary and Moss played well together. Moss did have a touchdown. Speaking of that, sidebar, guy wants to trade. Do you play fantasy at all?
No, I do not.
Okay, never mind then. I just got a trade that I don't know if I should do it or not. It's just
I'm the worst at fantasy advice, and like a lot of my friends, like they know obviously that I know football, but I'm terrible at fantasy football because I always have this rule. I always have this rule that was if I have someone on my team that's playing against the Packers, I don't start them because I don't want any reason to cheer for anyone who's not a Packer.
No, that's 100%. That's a great rule.
And I also draft based on like who are the best players, not the best at fantasy. So Aaron Rodgers is going to get the touchdowns and all that, but he doesn't really get a ton of yards. So I always draft Rodgers because he's a great quarterback, but he's not a great fantasy quarterback. So I'm not really big on fantasy football. And people always ask me, they'll be like, "Hey, should I do this?" And I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I get it. I just, the opinion's always there.
Yeah.
Zach Moss had a rushing touchdown. Mitchell Trubisky came in and got himself a rushing touchdown, which just funny. Stephon Diggs, because it's funny, you know why? Because they're struggling so much at quarterback right now on the Chicago side. And I'm sorry, but Trubisky wasn't this bad. You know what I'm saying? It's just it's funny how they gave up on him. But
I always thought Trubisky had talent. It's just, man, Chicago is just
not good. Stephon Diggs had 7 catches for 114. Emmanuel Sanders has found the fountain of youth. He's been playing great all season. 74 yards. Knox, the tight end, had 2 receiving touchdowns. On the defensive side, we had Star Latulier had a sack. So did Basham. And Micah Hyde, Johnson, Matakiewicz, and Edmonds all had interceptions. So not much to say here, but go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it was actually pretty rough for the Bills. I mean, obviously you win by 40. It's hard to say that there were problems, but they kind of looked a little bit sloppy. Josh Allen, like you said, he had a pretty good game, threw for a couple hundred yards and 2 touchdowns, but he did have the pick. And it was just rough to start for the Bills. They did kind of get it going in that third drive and then had a pretty steady go on offense until that fourth quarter where they obviously blew up. Diggs and Sanders is going to really turn out to be a really big duo throughout this season. I think they're the most dangerously underrated duo, and people are going to sleep on them, but I don't think that they should. This duo is really, really good. Like I said, the Bills did play a little bit sloppy, but hey, you win by 40. That's awesome. And Davis Mills, it's hard to say he's terrible because, I mean, think of his situation.
Yeah.
Arguably the worst roster in football, right? Arguably the worst roster in football.
It would have been a great roster in 2010.
Right. Davis Mills was not a highly touted prospect coming out of college. So it's not like this is Justin Fields on the Texans or Trevor Lawrence on the Texans or even Mac Jones on the Texans. This is a guy who was taken, I think, 3rd, 4th, 5th round. He wasn't a first or a second rounder. He was a late round pick, and he's starting for one of the worst rosters in football. One of the worst rosters in football. So he's playing terrible, but I really don't want to blame him. I kind of want to give him the benefit of the doubt because he literally just has 0 chance. But other than that, good win for the Bills, 40-plus points or 40-point win. Great to see for them.
They did exactly what they were supposed to do. That's all it was, is that they came in there. They didn't underestimate the Texans at all. They handled business, and that's all it was. They had a professional game, and they did what they needed to do to win the game.
Well,
Next year, go ahead.
I was just saying that whenever I say a sloppy game, I'm not saying they were making mistakes all over the field, and you don't just win by 40 against a terrible team just because. What I mean by them playing sloppy is just kind of the little things that if they were playing a team like the Chiefs and that was a closer game, they wouldn't have got away with some of the stuff, like some of the penalties and all that. That's kind of what I mean. I'm not trying to rag on the Bills by any means.
No, I know what you're saying, yeah.
But it was a good win, so I'm not a hater.
Okay, so I don't know. I didn't watch your pick'em game, but for this game here, who did you pick between Carolina and the Cowboys?
I picked the Carolina Panthers. I thought it could go either way. Me and my boss do picks every single week, and he took the Cowboys, and he was really confident about them winning. So I thought, you know what, why not have a little bit of competition? I thought it could go either way, so I decided with the Panthers.
So, I mean, this game was close until halftime, and then the third quarter, Dallas scores 23 points, and Carolina only scores 14. But Dallas scored 20 of them in the third quarter to kind of take it away. Listen, I always thought that Carolina, they had a good defense, and Sam Darnold, not the greatest quarterback, but he was doing well.
Right.
But the funny thing is that he has like the most rushing touchdowns for quarterbacks right now.
He has the most rushing touchdowns in the NFL right now.
Does he have the most in the NFL too? Okay.
NFL.
So he threw for 301. 2 touchdowns, but also 2 interceptions, and he was sacked 5 times.
Right.
So that was a big one too. He did have 2 rushing touchdowns as well. Chuba Hubbard, he ended up playing okay. He had 57 yards rushing, 14 receiving. Royce Freeman had 12 yards, and I always like to bring up Royce because he was one of my favorites back in the day at Oregon. DJ Moore had a great game, 113 yards and 2 touchdowns. Zolstra had 63 yards. And on the defensive side, they did not get any sacks on Dak, no interceptions, nothing really. Shaq Thompson had 5 combined tackles, so nothing really to report there on the defense.
Right.
The defense struggled a little bit. But Dak Prescott came out for 188 yards, but 4 touchdowns. Zeke had a touchdown. Pollard had 67 yards. Zeke had 143 yards and a touchdown, which is huge. Cooper, Schultz, and Wilson and Jarwin all had touchdowns. Cooper had the most receiving yards with 69. On defense, we had sacks by Golston, Parsons, 2 by Gregory, half by, oh my God, Iguzawa? I always forget how to pronounce his name, and 1 by Basham, and 2 interceptions by Diggs. Diggs has turned into a really good young corner, but we all knew about that, and it's so great because, the Raiders passed on him to get somebody else, but whatever. So, yeah, I mean, it lived up to the hype, but I think that they thought it was going to be a lot less scoring. I did think the Cowboys, I leaned a little bit towards Carolina as well, just because I thought Carolina's defense would step it up. I did not think they would put 4 passing touchdowns. They did not that many yards. So if you really look at it, they didn't allow much passing yards. They allowed 4 passing touchdowns. But to Zeke and Pollard, they gave up over 200 yards rushing. And you can't do that.
Right.
You can't do that. So
the guy that y'all drafted ahead of Diggs, that was Arnett, right?
I believe so, yeah.
So I just wanted to clarify because I was like, was it Damon Arnett? But yeah, as far as the game goes, this is one of those games where the score was closer than the actual game. The Cowboys kind of let up once they got up by 20 in the 4th. But other than that, I mean, let's just be honest. Sam Darnold and this Ghostbusters offense, they looked great in that first half. They were doing great. It was a good game throughout that first half. The third quarter came, and the Cowboys just absolutely took off offensive and defensively. Diggs with the 2 picks, like you said, becoming a star right in front of our own eyes. I mean, this Cowboys team is for real. And Dak Prescott was proving the doubters wrong in this game. The Cowboys look really, really good. This is a team that I think is easily going to win the NFC East, and this team might even be the number 1 team in the NFC, depending on how the rest of their schedule looks. I haven't looked at that, but this Cowboys team is for real, and I'm not saying Super Bowl, but I am saying that this is a really, really, really good team.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing more to say except for, both teams surprised me in a way because I thought that Carolina was going to play great defense. They really didn't. And I thought the Cowboys would stub their toe a little bit against that defense, and they didn't. So I was surprised by the outcome. I was surprised by the score. But overall, Dallas has surprised the hell out of me. And it sickens me to say it, but Dak is definitely in the running right now for MVP.
I agree 100%. I've always known that Dak Prescott's good. I've always thought Dak Prescott had
I don't.
See, I thought that coming back from injury, I didn't think he was going to be near as good as he was last year before he did get hurt. He might be playing better now than he was last year. I'd have to compare the stats, but he's doing really good.
He is doing very well. And Zeke actually in the last 2 games has stepped it up, which has really been a big help for them. But, yeah, I think that NFC East is already, I know the Eagles football team and Giants could turn around, but I don't think they'll catch them. I just don't think so. Next game, we got Cleveland visiting the Vikings, which was a close game, but honestly, it was a game of lines, and meaning the Cleveland's defensive line versus Minnesota's offensive line, where Cleveland pretty much was giving Kirk Cousins trouble left and right. Baker Mayfield had 155 yards and 11 yards rushing. Nick Chubb had 100 yards rushing, 5 yards receiving. Jalen Smith got released.
No way. Jared Sawyer, yes, sir. Go Ducks.
Kareem Hunt had 69 yards and a touchdown, 17 receiving yards. Higgins had 63 yards passing. Beckham had 27 yards, and Njoku had 17. I will say this, Mr. Beckham and Mr. Mayfield are a little bit off key with each other. Yep, Jalen Smith literally just got released. He's right. They cut him. Come on to the Cowboys, Jalen. We'll take you all day. Or come on to the Raiders, I mean. I'll take that, don't you think? They need some linebacker help.
We need Jalen Smith. Can he edge rush because of Zardarius Smith being out for the Packers?
I think he's in the middle. I think he's better of a middle linebacker. I don't know. But the chemistry between Beckham and timing was not good because there was a couple where they could have sealed the game, and they didn't. On the defensive side, Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward have had half a sack each. Williams had an interception, and Takk McKinley had himself his first sack, and I think they said almost a year. On the Viking side, Kirk Cousins threw for 203, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. It looked like he was running for his life the whole game. Yeah. Dalvin Cook had 9 carries for 34 yards. Justin Jefferson, budding superstar, still had 6 catches for 84 yards and a touchdown. Thielen had 46 yards receiving. Hunter had a sack. Everson Griffin, Tomlinson had a sack, and there were no interceptions. I watched this game at work for the 1 o'clock games. It was extremely boring, but the Browns do win, go into Minnesota and win. And literally it was just because the Minnesota's offensive line could not cover that great defensive line that the Browns have. And they literally have like 4 or 5 rejects from the first round. They have Takk McKinley, Jadeveon Clowney. They have 2 number 1 overall picks on there. It's just crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the Browns versus the the Vikings, and the Browns ate up a lot of clock in this game. I mean, let's be honest, they just ran the ball like they do. They ate up all the time possession in this game. And like you said, yeah, Kirk Cousins struggled, but he didn't really have a chance in this game. This Browns defensive line is really, really good, and the Browns defense overall is really good. I think they can win games where their offense only scores 14 points, 21 points. It's the Vikings where I'm like, look, your defense is fine, right? They only let the Browns score 14 points. I mean, granted, the Browns did, like I said, run the ball a whole lot. But this is a game where obviously both defenses dominate. Cleveland can win games like this. Minnesota's offense is way too powerful. If their offense is struggling where they're only putting up 7 points, they better either really be playing a great defense like this team, or they are probably struggling a lot. And that's just kind of what they did. They struggled against a really good defense. The one thing I had to say that I really want to say about this game is that the Browns were weirdly aggressive on 4th and goal. There was a couple times when they could have had field goals. I'm talking about easy field goals, but instead they chose to go for it on 4th down and goal. I think they did that twice and failed. That was kind of weird for me to see. I was like, why don't I take the points, especially in a game where neither team was getting any points? But, it is what it is. The Browns still did get the W, so I was excited about that, 14-7. Pretty good win for the Browns. Good win for their defense.
That's a huge win for the Browns. It's something where, they ended up winning. They're winning games where they might have lost a couple years ago, and now they're winning those games where you've got a good team in front of you. Your offense isn't doing great stuff, but your defense is really helping you out. They've got good corners, they've got good linebackers, and they've got a great defensive line. Their defensive line is winning them games because, like I said, I watched the whole game, and Kirk Cousins was not comfortable from play 1 to play end of the game. So it was just so tough for him to get anything going. But listen, on the Minnesota side, you got rid of all these offensive linemen. The Raiders, my Raiders are dealing with the same thing. You get rid of all these guys, but you got nothing to return for it. So It's like, hopefully they do rebound from it and get a little bit better because I do think they're a decent team. I don't think they're going to win the division, but listen, you can't be upset with going into a hostile environment like Minnesota and winning for the Browns.
Right.
The Browns are just really they're one of the best teams in the AFC right now, which is crazy to think, but it's true. It finally worked out for them. They're not a joke anymore. So we'll see what happens for the full season, because I do know that, like, looking at the schedule now, especially from a Raiders standpoint, like, we play a lot of teams with great offenses. So it's going to be a lot of fun, with these teams.
We have the Browns later on this season. Hopefully Brian Balaga's back because – or not – or is it Brian Balaga or – no, Bakhtiari. Why did I confuse it? It's Bakhtiari. Hopefully Bakhtiari's back because this dude Myles Garrett is absolutely tearing it up.
Yeah. You need to have your best player against him. Next game we got two teams with records that most people probably didn't think would happen. The Colts at 1-3 and the Dolphins at 1-3. The Colts win 27-17. Carson Wentz had himself a decent game, 228 and 2 touchdowns. Jonathan Taylor had a good game with 103 and 1 touchdown. Michael Pittman had 59 yards receiving. Mo Alley Cox had 2 receiving touchdowns, which I love to see because he was just a basketball player before this. On the defensive side, Darius Leonard did what he was supposed to do, like he always does. Teray had 2 sacks. Stewart had 1, and there were no interceptions. But Leonard is probably – God, he's just so good. Jacoby Brissett had 199 and 2 touchdowns. They had no running game whatsoever, less than 50 yards. Brown had 23 yards. Gaskin had 3. Deshaun Parker, Mike Gesicki both had receiving touchdowns. Parker had 77 yards. Jalen Waddle had 3 catches for 33 yards. On the defensive side, I don't think there's anything that really stood out except for Phillips had a sack. Ogbath had a sack, and there were no interceptions. So, I've been very disappointed in the way the Colts played. I thought the Colts were going to be great this year because of Wentz and Frank Reich hooking back up offensively. But this is a good win for them. I mean, they could not go 0-4 without people start chatting a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. Well, as far as this game does go, both offenses actually kind of struggled early in the first and second quarter. Later on in that second quarter, the Colts kind of started get it going, and then they were great in the second. I feel like they still, and I keep stressing this every single week, they still need to finish drives and touchdowns instead of field goals. If they do that, these are blowout wins that they're going to be having. They wouldn't be 1-3 if they finish drives and touchdowns instead of field goals. Some late touchdowns for Miami made this game look a lot closer than it seemed. It felt like the Colts were blowing them out the entire second half, but I'm not really impressed with what I saw with the Colts, but I'm definitely happy that they did get their first win. I think that they could be a lot better, though, considering the talent that they have. Wentz has been healthy these past 2 weeks, so that's good to see. Overall, just good win for the Colts, though. Good win for them. And, man, the Dolphins got to get Tua back out there.
It's crazy to say it, but, the thing about it is Titans lost, Texans lost, and the Jaguars lost. So the Colts are still there.
Right.
I think they're only 1 game behind. I think the Titans are 2-2. Yeah.
Everyone else is 2-2, or obviously
1-3.
Jacksonville's going to Jacksonville. So,
did you see that thing about Urban Meyer?
Which thing about Urban Meyer?
Him with the chick at the bar.
Yeah, I saw that one for sure. Oh my gosh,
dude! How are people not already knowing that he is not a good human being? Because when he coached in Florida, he was not a good person.
All those scandals and this and that.
Yeah, and it's like I don't know what the surprise is. It's like he was Mr. God man and all that stuff, but it's like he just I don't know. It's just, to me, he'll probably only be there for a year. He'll probably get fired after this year because they're more than likely going to go 1-15, 2-14.
Yeah.
And especially when the owner comes out and says that he has lost his trust with him. I mean, that's yeah. He won't be the coach much longer. He won't. It's just much longer past this year.
That's bad for Lawrence because, I mean, obviously that guy is not the right coach for Lawrence, but having to go in and out of having a new coach every single year, which is probably what he's going to run into with the Jags, that's not going to be good for him. We'll see.
And he's struggling already, so it's just going to make it worse. Speaking of worst, the Jets win against the Titans, 27-24 in overtime. The Jets actually were down going into the fourth quarter. Then they ended up going up, and Tennessee had to score to come back to tie the game, which is just so surprising that the Jets, not surprising they let the Titans come back, but that that they had to come back to catch the Jets and not lose in regulation. For Tennessee, Tannehill had 298, one touchdown, 9 rushing yards. Derrick Henry had 157 and a touchdown, which usually when he scores and does what he's doing, they usually win. So, it's like, ugh. And I know, and Matthew Evans just said that Jets fans are probably sick to their stomach that they won because they want that number 1 overall pick. I don't know who it's going to be this year, but on the side of the Titans, they had no A.J. Brown, they had no Julio Jones, so Carlos Rogers and McNichols were the leading receivers with 74 and 63 yards receiving. Reynolds had 59 yards as well. On defense, Landry had a sack. Fulton had an interception, but nothing else really to report there. On the Jet side, I mean, the stats weren't terrible. They weren't great, though. I mean, Wilson threw for 297, 2 touchdowns and an interception. Carter had 38 yards rushing and a touchdown. Corey Davis said hello to his old team by catching 4 passes for 111 yards and a touchdown. Keelan Cole, who came out of nowhere with 92 yards receiving. Jamison Crowder had 61 yards and a touchdown. On defense, they had a ton of sacks. Mosley had 1. Quinn Williams had 1. Oh, there's 2 Q Williams. Hold on. Quinnen Williams, who was their first pick out of Alabama, I apologize, had 2 sacks. Then Quincy Williams, the linebacker, had 1 sack. Hall had half a sack, and Frank Myers had 1 sack, and Huff had a sack and a half. So overall, the Jets had 7 sacks against the Jets, which is just they got sacked 7 times against the Jets, which is just insane that they allowed that much. But I would have to say that, are the Titans really that good this year?
Let me be honest. I think that they are in terms of their division. I think that they are still the best team in their division. Yeah, 2 of their best receivers were out. But no, I don't think that this team is a contender whatsoever. As far as their offensive line, man, they looked absolutely horrid. They have since week 1 when they let Chandler Jones get to the quarterback 5 times. So I don't think so. I don't think that they are that good. There you go. Your screen's unfrozen now. It was frozen for a little bit. But
okay.
Yeah. But no, I don't think that they're that good. Their offensive line is really bad. I mean, Derrick Henry and Chester Rogers were really the only reason that they were even in this game. They were bad. The Jets were really bad too until the fourth quarter, whenever Zach Wilson actually started to wheel and deal a little bit. But overall, I mean, no, I don't think that the Titans are very good. They still have that problem that the Vikings kind of have where they can't find a kicker whatsoever. Them and the Vikings have that problem, kind of the same way that forever the Browns couldn't find a quarterback. They're kind of like that with the whole kicker situation. But, I mean, yeah, it's just a poor game for the Titans and great for the Jets.
But is it great for the Jets?
Yeah, I mean, you got to see some wins. I mean, Robert Saleh I think he's a good coach, and I think he's a winner. He wants to win games.
I don't think he's going anywhere no matter what.
Oh, no, I don't either. But not to mention, I don't really think that – I mean, once you have your quarterback, there's really no point in tanking. Now, I don't think that Zach Wilson is the quarterback, but they did just draft him, so it's not like they're going to move on.
Yeah.
Looking for that number 1 overall pick doesn't really make sense for anybody because there are no quarterbacks in this draft that are really that good. Maybe Malik Willis, who I'm actually a fan of, but I just don't know. I haven't seen much on him yet. But the number one pick is probably going to end up being Kayvon Thibodeau, the defensive end out of Oregon. But the Jets already have a really good pass rush, so they don't need him. I don't know who they would take if they did get the number one pick. So I think, they need to win games. They shouldn't be upset about winning this game.
Yeah. Did you see a picture of my new lady? She's sexy.
Wow.
She's I don't know. This just came up on my phone.
Came up on your feed?
Yeah, she's huge. Sorry. So, yeah, I mean, for the Jets fans, they're probably pissed off because it was the number one overall pick, but it's the first half of the season, like first quarter of the season. They can lose plenty more going on, you know what I'm saying? So, speaking of first overall picks, the Lions give Justin Fields his first win of the season. You got to feel bad for Jared Goff here. You do. You got to feel bad because I don't think he's doing anything wrong statistically. I really don't think so. I think that, like today, he threw for 299 and 2 touchdowns. Jamal Williams, who has become their number one back, like I thought he would, had 66 yards rushing. Cephas had 83 yards receiving. St. Brown had 72. Raymond had 46 and 2 touchdowns. St. Brown's brother is better than St. Brown, who got drafted. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. On defense for the Lions, they had 1 sack by Harris and 1 interception by Awuye. On the Chicago side, Justin Fields had 209 and an interception. Montgomery had 106 and 2 touchdowns. Damian Williams had 55 and a touchdown. On the receiving side, Mooney had 125 yards receiving. Robinson had 63. On the defensive side, Roquan Smith, Robert Quinn, Taj Gibson, and Khalil Mack all had sacks, and there were no interceptions. So not a great game overall, but the Bears do bounce back to beat the lowly Lions. First thing I want to say, and I'll let you analyze the game, is that from the way the press conference went for Dan Campbell, I am so glad this team is not doing well because he sounded like such a jackass going into this first press conference, and I'm glad the team is not winning because I just don't think he has what it takes.
Really?
I just don't.
I kind of like his energy. Like, I like how he's always super fun.
On the football field, not in a press conference.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I think that he kind of just takes it a little bit too far sometimes. But overall, as far as the game goes, I think that the Lions are just so far away. I don't think that there's anything that can save this team right now. They're just so bad. Fields looked better than he did last week, but he still has a long way to go as well. Detroit, I mean, let's be honest. Sometimes they did pretty good throughout this game, but overall, just they're so bad. They're so bad. I think that the Bears, they're having some weapons right now that are doing really good. Obviously, Mooney and A-Rob are great. Montgomery doing pretty good this past game. He is hurt though. I think he's going to miss like 4 to 5 weeks. But
Damian Williams would be a good backup for him.
Not a great game.
Yeah. But I think Damian Williams could be a good backup for him, don't you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I agree. Yeah, for sure. I
just think that these two teams are bad, and one team had to win.
Yeah.
Chicago has to go in to play the Raiders next, and the Raiders should beat them pretty handily. But
I wanted to pick the Lions to win this game because I kind of feel bad for Jared Goff, and I like Jared Goff to a certain extent, but I couldn't. They're just that bad. And I think that they have a little bit more talent than the Bears in some areas, but it's going to be a long season for the Lions.
It is, and the thing is that you look at Jared Goff's stat line, and he threw for 338 and 3 touchdowns against San Fran, 246 and 2 touchdowns against Green Bay, 217, no touchdowns against Baltimore, 299 and 2 touchdowns, and he's only thrown 2 interceptions.
Right.
It's not the quarterback's fault. and I feel so bad for Jared Goff, and I don't know. It just sucks.
Yeah.
For him, it really does. But it's just
not unfortunate.
He's not bitching, which is nice to see, and he's doing his job. I mean, no one's gonna say it's his fault. Nobody.
Right.
Next game we got before we get into the Raiders and the Packers is Washington football team beat the Atlanta Falcons 34-30. It was a great, fun game to watch. Even in the highlights, it was fun to watch. Washington had to come back, and they did. Heineke has had a great game. 290, 3 touchdowns, 43 yards rushing. Gibson had 63 yards and a touchdown. Receiving-wise, Terry McLaurin had 123 and 2 touchdowns. McKissick had a receiving touchdown. You had production from so many guys, from Adam Humphrey to Seals Jones to Curtis Samuel, who's back. It's just great production there. On the defensive side, you had 1 sack from Sweat and no interceptions, so not much to report there on the defensive side. Atlanta, Matt Ryan still doing nothing wrong, in my opinion.
Right.
283 and 4 touchdowns. Patterson had 3 touchdowns receiving, 34 yards rushing, 82 yards receiving. Calvin Ridley had 80 yards receiving. Pitts had 50 yards receiving. On the defensive side, you had sacks from only one guy, and it was Alukun, and no interceptions. So a lot of offense in this game.
Yeah, big-time offense in this game. The biggest thing, honestly, and it seems like every single week for Washington, Terry McLaurin just continues to dominate against these defenses. He had a huge game. Washington's defense overall has just underperformed this season. A lot of people were thinking this was the best defense in the league.
I know I drafted
into this season. They have underperformed this season. Cordero Patterson had a good game for Atlanta. Pitts and what's his name? Ridley. I almost said Riley. Ridley had a really good game, or had a decent game as well, along with Kyle Pitts. Only the Falcons could lose this game. They should have won it. Only the Falcons could lose this game, and they did.
Yeah, so it was just one of those games where you had it in your hands and then you just let it go, But shows character for Washington, because they could be easily 0-4 right now.
Right.
But they showed some character in the Giants game. They've showed character in every game that they played. It's just Atlanta's just bottom of the barrel. They're going to be picking maybe in the top 10 again. Even though Matt Ryan doesn't do anything wrong, they might move on.
Yeah.
Just maybe give him a shot with somebody else.
Just start over. Yeah.
So on the comment side, Matthew J. Evans had a few comments here. He says the Bears are back at track at 2-2.
To a certain extent.
Sad that Goff hasn't been able to do much with the offense. Bears D was great for the Bears defense has been really good.
I think they have a really good defense.
And that's the thing that scares me with the Raiders, is that they might not be able to establish much with that pass rush. Right. How bad their offensive line is. But, he finally said, let's see, I wonder how the players are feeling in Detroit. How they deal with losing year after year after year. Seriously, the Lions are the Chicago Cubs of football. Yeah, but at least the Cubs won a championship recently.
So I can definitely comment on that. So when I was in high school, whenever I played sports in high school, from sophomore year to junior year, we were always pretty good. But my freshman year, we went 2-8. And dealing with losing every single week, and honestly knowing that you're going to lose, that's tough. And doing it at a professional level compared to, just some kid on JV football.
Yeah.
Doing it at a professional level, I probably couldn't be able to handle that.
Yeah.
Those guys are obviously making a lot of money, so
yeah,
I think to a certain extent that might ruin some guys' mentals. Like if you're just going into every game like, hey, at least I'm collecting a check, that's got to ruin your mentals, right?
Yeah, a little bit. I would think so.
That's got to be tough. I don't know what they would be thinking.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to a victory for the Packers. They win 27-17 in a it was a lopsided game in my opinion. The Packers had the game most of the season, most of the game. I meant. Big Ben had 232, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Najee Harris had 62 yards rushing and a touchdown, 29 yards receiving. Deontay Johnson had 9 catches for 92 yards. Washington had 69 yards receiving. On the defensive side, Bush had a sack. TJ Watt had 2 sacks, and there were 0 interceptions. On the Packers side, Aaron Rodgers had 248, 2 touchdowns, and 1 rushing touchdown. A.J. Dillon was the leading rusher with 81 yards, also 16 yards receiving. Aaron Jones had 99 total yards on offense, but he did lose a fumble, which is not good. Randall Cobb, ladies and gentlemen, comes out of nowhere with 69 yards and 2 touchdowns. Devontae Adams has 64 yards receiving. On the defensive side, Mr. Stokes, rookie, had 8 tackles and an interception. Wow, he had 8 tackles. I didn't realize that. Gary and Kiki had sacks, and that's about it. But Stokes, I believe that was Stokes' first interception of the year.
Second start of the year because Kevin King got some kind of sickness or something, which kind of put Stokes in that position to play. But Rodgers and the Pack, man, we looked good. We looked good for 3 quarters, but they definitely let off the gas quite a bit for the 4th quarter. This game was not as close as the score is. I feel like we could have won by a whole lot more. And a win is a win is a win is a win. To quote the number 1 Raider ever, Al Davis, just win, baby. And that's what the Packers did. But I definitely think that they can play better. A lot like the Bills, where, hey, you got to win. You had a big win. 10 points is not a small win. But you definitely do better. You definitely can clean up some of the mistakes. We have to finish games.
Yeah, I need a field goal for the over, fuckers.
Well, we definitely have to, we have to put the pressure on in the 4th quarter. When the game is wrapped up, you have to continue to put the pressure on. Big Ben, done. Denzel Washington. I mean, just not good anymore.
He's
not good.
Him and Juju are terrible.
And Juju had those 2 drops, and I don't think I'm not losing hope on Juju.
Oh, I am.
For the rest of this season, he's done. I think that his Steelers career is just about over. He is never going to be successful with this franchise again. If he moves on, maybe we can see some kind of a surge, but I just don't know. But overall, good win for the Packers. I'm excited about it. Definitely was happy about the win. Definitely think that we could have done more, though. Can't complain too much, though. A win is a win is a win is a win.
Yeah, no, it's good. And like I said, the big thing for me is that the Steelers are just – maybe they're not as good as people thought, but also their defense is doing what they need to do, but there's only so much they can do. And their offense is not producing as much as they should. They're not running the ball effectively at all. And that's usually their MO, is to feed off of that. And
would it be a stretch, and I keep seeing memes that say this, but would it be a stretch to say that Ben Roethlisberger is the worst starting quarterback in the league? And I'm not talking about compared to Jacoby Brissett and Davis Mills, because those guys are filling in for hurt quarterbacks. I'm talking about, is Big Ben the worst starter in the league?
No, because the rookies are worse.
Yeah, maybe.
Connor Lawrence is worse than Big Ben right now.
You think so?
I think Justin Fields is worse than Big Ben right now. I just think that but Justin Fields is filling in too, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So it's Connor Lawrence, but I think he needs to retire because he's a Hall of Famer in my eyes, and just let him go out to pasture.
A lot of people's views on Big Ben are going to change because of how bad of a year that he's having. Obviously, he is an all-time great, but I feel like a lot of people are going to start to remember this last year where he was.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's sad because one quarterback like Rodgers could go out on top and the other is going to go out just beat up and not, not 100%.
Well, then you have a guy like Peyton Manning who had a terrible last season.
Yeah.
He won the
Super Bowl. Yeah.
You get a little bit of both with how he did.
Yeah. Well, moving on to some bad news. Las Vegas Raiders lose 28-14 to the Chargers. Derek Carr has 2 touchdowns, an interception. He was sacked 4 times. Josh Jacobs had 40 yards rushing and 17 yards receiving. Henry Ruggs had 60 yards receiving. Darren Waller had 50. Hunter Renfrow had 45 and a touchdown, and Darren Waller also had a touchdown. On the defensive side, there was no interceptions and 2 sacks by Darius Philon. And then for the Chargers, Justin Herbert had a fantastic game. He threw it for 222 and 3 touchdowns. Austin Eckler had 117 rushing in a touchdown and 28 in a touchdown. Jared Cook had 70 yards and a touchdown. Keenan Allen had 7 catches, but only for 36 yards. Yeah. Mike Williams only had 1 catch for 11 yards. Derwin James had an interception. Then you had Fackrell, Tillery, Bosa, and Covington with sacks. And we're not going to spend much time on this game because there isn't much to say. The Raiders did not show up in the first half. In the second half, they tried, but they, too little too late. I don't think the team's bad because of this loss. I think that they were – I don't know what it was, if it was the delay or something, but they just did not come out with any energy, and Los Angeles came out with a ton. And listen, our biggest issue right now that we never had in a while is our offensive line. Our offensive line is not giving Derek Carr enough time anymore. Alex Leatherwood looks like a bust after 4 games, but we can't say that because it's only been 4 games, but he is struggling. And the Raiders traded away all their players this offseason. Rodney Hudson, our center, gets replaced by Andre James, who's never played center. Then you get rid of Gabe Jackson and replace him with I forgot what his name is, like Elwars. I don't even know his name, and he's not any good. Offensive line is bad, and for once our defense is not that bad. And the Raiders are just not – they just didn't show up. That's all it is, guys. You can't freak out about it. You cannot freak out about it because they weren't going to go undefeated. And they're 3-1 after playing the Dolphins, Steelers, Ravens, and the Chargers.
Yeah.
I guarantee you a lot of people thought they'd be 1-3 or 0-4.
Yeah. Like you said, the Raiders just did not bring the energy in that first half. Herbert and the Chargers just absolutely dominated. The Raiders, they kind of made it a game in that second half, and Darren Waller had that catch in the back of the end zone. Like I said, grown man catch, wow. And that wow is an acronym for wow, oh, wow, because Darren Waller is insane. I mean, I was talking about this guy as a top 3 tight end. I'm kind of starting to say top 2, not 2. This guy might be the best tight end in football, but like you said, just didn't have a lot of energy. They kind of had the comeback going. They just could not stop who I think is the NFL MVP right now, Justin Herbert. Carr played fine. Carr was good. But LA, man, they look like a real contender. A real contender.
No, they're the team to beat now in the AFC West. I know the Chiefs are going to be good. The Raiders are good. The Broncos are okay. It's going to be a dogfight till the end of the season with these guys. The big thing was that lightning delay. They're in a fucking dome. Like, why are we getting a lightning delay?
I didn't get that either. And they were talking about it. They were like, you might be wondering, why is there a lightning delay in a dome? And like while they were doing that, I was kind of like editing some videos or something like that. And I was busy doing something, and I heard that, and I was like, I don't even want to hear why it's delayed. I was like,
it's not even worth it. Yeah, it's just whatever. But like I said to Raiders fans in my recap video, just the Raiders are still in first place. They're 3-1. They got the Bears this week, and if the offense is good, we're going to be fine every week. It's because the defense has turned a somewhat corner, and they're not letting people – I mean, they only allowed 36 yards from Keenan Allen and 11 yards from Mike Williams. That's a huge step up. Before it used to be 111 and 132, so it's just breathe a little bit of Aaron Rodgers, relax. It's one game, and you didn't lose to a bad team. The Chargers are a really good team. So
that's the thing is that like a lot of Raiders fans might be upset, but hey, here's the thing: the Chargers are a really, really good football team. Nothing to stress about. It's the NFL. You're going to lose ball games.
Exactly. So moving on to the only team undefeated left in a surprise win. Maybe not a surprise to some, but the score was a little surprising. The Cardinals beat the Rams 37-20 in L.A. They were in L.A. for this game. Kyler Murray, 268 yards, 2 touchdowns, 39 yards rushing. Edmonds had 120 yards and a touchdown. James Conner, who is starting to become a touchdown machine, had 50 yards and 2 touchdowns. On the receiving side, A.J. Green comes out with another touchdown. You'd love to see that. Hopkins had 67 yards receiving. And Max Williams, tight end, 87 yards. And, 87 yards. I'm sorry. What does it say there? 66 yards and a touchdown. And he was one of the tight ends that was taken when they took I can't remember the other guy's name from BYU there that always kept getting hurt. And they took Max Williams as well, and he didn't work out in Baltimore, but now he's working out someplace else, which you'd like to see, On the defensive side, they didn't have any sacks. The Arizona had 0 sacks, which is weird, but Murphy had an interception. Next game against Chargers is a revenge game. Bosa talking shit. Yes. For Bosa to say that our friend Derek Carr is soft is that you should not say that because he's the opposite of soft. The guy will play through anything if he can. It's just I don't know. It seems to me the Bosa boys are just shit talkers for no reason. And it's like they really don't back it up either. I'm just saying.
Fine, they're decent.
They're Ohio State pussies. I mean, I'm sorry, but that's just what they are. They come from Ohio State, a team that gets coddled their whole fucking college career. They barely play anybody.
Right.
On the LA side, Stafford had 280, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. Henderson had 89 yards rushing. Sony Michel, only 11 yards rushing. The more and more the season goes on, the more and more I'm thinking Sony Michel just is not getting it in the NFL.
Right.
Jefferson had 90 yards and a touchdown. Robert Woods had a touchdown. Cooper Kupp had a human game for once.
Right.
He had 64 yards, but he was targeted 13 times. That's not good percentage there. On defense, Joseph Day had a sack. Leonard Floyd had a sack. Lewis had a sack, and there was no interception. So, yeah, 37-20, the Cardinals beat up on the Rams.
The Cardinals' offense is really good. Honestly, they might be the best offense in the NFL. Kyler Murray is looking like an MVP candidate right now. The Rams, they really weren't bad. They just didn't take advantage of their opportunities. They just didn't have a great game. They played like a regular team. They played like they were a regular team playing the best offense in football, and that's why they got beat like a regular team. The Cardinals defense made it really hard for LA to do anything. And just a good blowout win for the Cardinals. Kyler Murray he's doing really good. Texas high school football quarterback, by the way.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And if anyone's wondering about the wild card, Boston is beating New York 3-0 in the third, and Garrett Cole has been yanked after 3 games. Kind of saw this happening. I hate to say it, but
I predicted the Sox to win. Y'all make sure to go watch that video, my MLB postseason predictions. Well, this is wrapped up, of course.
What's that?
I said everyone needs to make sure to watch my postseason video, my MLB postseason predictions after this is wrapped up.
All right, next game we got the Seattle Seahawks go to San Francisco or Inglewood, I think it is now, not San Francisco, to beat the 49ers 28-21. It was a bittersweet game because I believe Jimmy Garoppolo got hurt, but they're saying he might be back for week 5. Seattle, on the Seattle side, Russell Wilson had 149 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. He did have a rushing touchdown as well. Alex Collins had 44 yards and a touchdown. Chris Carson had 30 yards rushing. DK Metcalf had 65 yards receiving and a touchdown. And Tyler Lockett had 24 yards. So not a great game for him. Also, Brooks and Taylor had sacks. And another Diggs, had an interception as well. On the San Francisco side, Jimmy Garoppolo had 165, 1 passing touchdown, 1 passing interception. Trey Lance comes in, throws for 157 and 2 touchdowns. Trey Sermon had 89 yards rushing. Trey Lance had 41 yards rushing. Deebo Samuel had 156 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns. And Dwelly had 21 yards and a touchdown. And on the offensive side, Ford had 2 sacks. Bosa had 1, and they had no interceptions. So I'm going to say something before you get into it. I predicted this one. I knew Seattle was going to beat San Fran. Seattle always plays them tough no matter where they are.
Right.
It just seems like Seattle always has that upper hand with Russell Wilson at quarterback.
Well, I definitely did not pick the Seahawks to win this game. The Seahawks did look good, though. Pretty hot start for the 49ers offensive and defensively, despite the pick early in this game. But both offenses kind of got stagnant after that first touchdown that the 49ers did score in the first half until late, whenever the Seahawks scored a touchdown late in the first half. But overall, just average play and the injury that Jimmy G had. You could kind of feel that Trey Lance was going to go in that game if he got hurt, even just a little bit. You felt like Trey Lance was going to go in the game, and he did okay. He was all right. But the big thing here is that MVP Russell Wilson, that train is back on the tracks. He's doing really good. If he continues this, he might end up winning the MVP on a team that might not make the playoffs. I mean, the NFC West is honestly wide open. Yeah, you do have an undefeated team. You got 2 teams that are 2-2, and then 1 team that is 3-1. But overall, this is a really good division, and I think it's going to be tight going to the end. The Seahawks have a chance. I don't think that they're going to make the playoffs, but they might, because this team is not bad. Russell Wilson playing like the MVP again. We're going to see.
These NFC West games are going to be just as fun as the AFC West games to see who's going to be the best. I don't think the Cardinals are the best team in the division, even though they're 4-0. I think that this team is going to – each game is going to transfer. Like, I think the Rams will beat the Cardinals next time they play them, just like I think the 49ers will beat Seattle.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? They're going to go back and forth there. So, just a lot of fun to watch. The NFC West is going to be a lot of fun to watch going forward. Next, you've got the Ravens, who – poor Teddy Bridgewater gets hurt again. Ravens end up winning 23-7. I knew this was going to happen because I know the Raiders lost, and people have said, they played some good teams, but Denver was 3-0 against terrible teams.
Right.
And, it's whatever. It's whatever. But still, Lamar Jackson comes out, throws for 316 and a touchdown. Latavius Murray had 59 yards rushing and a touchdown. Lev Bell had 4 rushes and a touchdown. Or no, just 4 rushes and 11 yards. Marquise Brown had 91 yards and a touchdown. Mark Andrews had 67 yards, and Proch had 74 yards receiving. On the defensive side, Bowser had 2 – Bowser? Like Mario? Had 2 sacks. Justin Houston, the ageless wonder, had 1 sack. Awuye had 1 sack, and so did Matabuke, had a sack as well. And Avert had a interception. On the Denver side, Drew Lock had 113 and an interception. The Teddy Bridgewater had 65 yards and a touchdown, but then got hurt.
Right.
Melvin Gordon and Williams had over 100 yards combined rushing. Sutton had 47 yards receiving. Noah Fant had 46 yards and a touchdown. Patrick had 39 yards receiving. On the defensive side, Stearns had 2 sacks. Von Miller had half a sack. And there was 0 interceptions. So kind of a weird game because Teddy Bridgewater was actually playing well, and then he got hurt.
Right, yeah. I mean, he was doing pretty good, and then obviously he did get hurt. Denver's offense was absolutely stagnant once he got out. They were just not getting anything going once he was out of this ball game. Hollywood Brown on the Ravens side, he's so confusing. Like, I don't know whether I think this guy is a good receiver or not, because he has games like he did yesterday where he balls out and he has a great game. And then the week before, though, he got beat by, or he had like 4 drops against the Lions that were touchdown passes. So this guy, every single week, you just don't know what you're going to get from Hollywood Brown. Overall, I think the Broncos are a good team. Yeah, the teams that they've beaten have been nobodies, but they've beaten those teams pretty handily, and they kind of stuck around while Teddy Bridgewater was in this game. So I think that they're going to have more opportunities to beat good teams. They didn't take advantage this time, but I do think that this Broncos team is good. That defense is good. Obviously, playing against Lamar Jackson, that's a great offense that they have over in Baltimore whenever everybody's clicking. So I'm not going to hold this against the Denver Broncos too much, but good win for the Ravens. It's an important win because this division is going to be close with them and the Browns. The Bengals have a good record right now, but I think that's eventually going to end. I think that's kind of just a blip, but we'll see. But yeah, this is a good win for the Ravens. Not really a tough loss for the Broncos. It'd be a tough loss if Teddy Bridgewater can't be good to go, but I think that they'll be able to figure it out. I do think this Broncos team is really good still, but we'll see how the rest of this. We'll see how it goes next week. Do you know who the Broncos have next week?
Let's check it out here. The Broncos have. Oh, no, never mind. Sorry. The Broncos have the Steelers.
The Steelers, I think that's going to be a great opportunity for them if they have
Pittsburgh, though, in Pittsburgh.
Well, if they win that game and if they win it pretty handedly, I think people are going to see them be like, you know what? This team is really good. They're going to beat up on the bad teams. They do have to beat the good teams, though.
Yeah, no, you're right. And with Teddy Bridgewater going out, that's a huge bump to them because he's
Pittsburgh, though.
He's been playing so well for them.
Right.
So it's like it sucks, but that's how you get a next man up mentality,
right? And
then go from there. But unfortunately, like I said, it's they lose their undefeated rank as well. Final game, we've got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers just barely beating the Patriots 19-17. It was a rainy, nasty game, so all teams were struggling. Tom Brady did not throw a touchdown for once in like a million games, but he threw for 269. Fournette had 91 yards rushing and 47 yards receiving. Jones had 25 yards rushing and a touchdown. Mike Evans had 75 yards receiving. Antonio Brown had 63 yards receiving. On defense, Golston, Barrett both had sacks, and Tyron Shinoka had 2 sacks, and then Antoine Winfield had an interception. On the Patriots side, Mac Jones had 275, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Jacoby Myers passed the ball twice for 45 yards. The one thing, though, was the rushing. Their leading rusher was Nelson Aguilar, who had 1 attempt for 4 yards. So their rushing stats went Aguilar, 1 rush, 4 yards. Bolden, 1 rush, 0 yards. Taylor, 1 rush, 0 yards. Mac Jones, 1 rush, -1 yards. And Harris, 4 rushes, -4 yards.
Wow.
So that's a -1 overall rushing for the game.
Wow, that's pretty bad.
Yeah.
Overall, this was a very emotional game. Obviously, Brady returned back to Gillette Stadium, having an opportunity, probably the only opportunity he was going to get to be able to say that he's beaten every single team in the NFL. But yeah,
both those tight ends they signed for the offseason are touchdowns, though. Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry.
Yeah. But it was overall just a really sloppy game, like you said. The rain kind of ruined the moment a little bit. No delay in this game, though.
Nope.
The Bucs.
Congratulations to Brady for breaking the record. Most passing yards. That's pretty cool.
Don't we all just love Tom Brady?
Hey, you got to give due where due is, man. The guy's awesome, and they didn't make a spectacle out of it. They just did it, and that was it.
Right.
They stop the game, start handing out flowers, start fingering the cheerleaders. But this one, it was just like, he did it.
Well, and honestly, in this game, Mac Jones really outplayed Tom Brady. He had a really good game. And I think that the Bucs are a really good team. This win obviously wasn't very convincing, but they're definitely a beatable team at that too. So.
Oh, yeah. No, it's funny because in my eyes right now, the best NFC team is either – the Rams, the Bucs, or the Packers.
Right.
And on the and I also think that the best rookie this year has been Mac Jones when it comes to quarterbacks.
I agree.
And it's you had to expect it a little bit. I mean, and they made so much hype about this game. Like, who gives a shit about a coach and a player? They're not going to hate each other. They're both millionaires making money. You know what I'm saying? They both have a shitload of rings. Belichick has more than Brady because he was an assistant coach for 2 Super Bowls. So he's got, 8, and Brady's got 7. It's like, Jesus, who's better? I don't get it. But it's like they got to make a story out of everything. But, overall, you got to be happy with the way that game, he did what he needed to do, and he did what Brady does to every team, and he did it to his old team. So now he's beaten every single team in the NFL. Just like Brett Favre. Remember Brett Favre did that too, where he finally beat when he became Minnesota or the Jets or whatever.
And then what's his name? Manning, Breeze, Brady, and Favre. Those are the only 4. Hopefully, Aaron Rodgers never ends up on that list.
You never know. But I never thought Brady would end up on that list, though.
No.
But I will say this: as old and slow as Gronk is, he makes a huge difference in that passing game. And Raider Carlos, how you doing, brother? Tough loss. We already talked about the Raiders. Tough loss. But we'll get him back. We got the Bears next week. We'll get him back. But I just think that, overall, he may not be fast. He can catch a lot, but he makes such a difference. And it's weird. You wouldn't think he would.
The past 2 weeks, they haven't looked good on offense, and I think that's got to be part of it.
Yeah, I mean, but the thing is, they have 2 other great tight ends in Cameron Brate and O.J. Howard.
Right.
And it's just, I don't know what the deal is with whatever, though. I mean, it's whatever. It's like being mad at an all-star team for missing an all-star. I mean, they're all great players. It's just, it's disgusting.
25 minutes, starting now.
But it's,
if you want to
it's just,
try asking me.
It's almost insane to have, the Patriots stay with them, I guess. I thought, but when I saw the rain, I was like, nah, okay.
It's going to be a sloppy game, and it was.
Yeah. But, what are you going to do? So, not very much fun there, But good week, though, overall. I'm looking at the scores right now. There's nothing really else I want to say about it. It's just, it was a weird game. Even the Thursday game was pretty good. Joe Burrow got to, kind of show that he could be that last-second warrior there, so that was nice. So,
For sure.
Yeah, but all right, guys, we'll let you guys go. We are, what does that say? You collab with Doc Sandy? YouTuber. I have no idea who that is. I'll have to look that up, actually. But yeah, so overall, it was a good week. Like I said, there were some weird games with the Giants and the Jets winning, and Washington coming back and Arizona killing the Rams and the Seahawks being able to win in it's not Candlestick anymore. It's Inglewood. And then the Packers it's just the Steelers aren't that good anymore. But this game kind of showed that they are just not the same team they used to be, which is sad because the Steelers are always a staple. They're like the Patriots. They're always in it. They just get eliminated in like the second or third game, but yeah, so this is it, guys. We're going to have week 5 next week. It might be on Tuesday again because with Columbus Day coming up, I have to work because my work is open for that day instead of being off like I usually am. So, but me and Mike will figure it out. It'll be Monday or Tuesday. You'll see us. Be another exciting week of football. I know the bye weeks are coming up so that the show will be shortened a little bit because there will be less games to talk about. But listen, you guys have, been really cool and hanging out with us. So I appreciate guys like Matthew J. Evans. And you mentioned your guy there, and Raider Carlos and the Raider Critique, and Ricky Seven for coming out and watching the show. We really appreciate it. Like I said, the Raiders will bounce back. We talked about them in the middle of the show. Tough game, but the Raiders will bounce back hopefully, and we know the Packers are just going to do what they do. Just win.
Right.
So we'll see you guys later. Do us a favor while watching. Hit us up with a like, a subscribe, hit the notification button next to the subscribe button so you know when the show is coming out. And then also, comment while we're doing the show and, when you watch it back. So we'll see you guys later. Mike, let them know where they can find you.
Yeah, guys, as always, follow me on Instagram at Mykel Sports _YouTube, my Twitter at Mykel Sports for Ducks and Green Bay Packers content. Always, my TikTok is at mykelsports.youtube if y'all are into that. And then my YouTube channel, obviously, is Mykel Sports. So thank you all for watching this video.
And remember, when you log on to his TikTok, it is X-rated. So, be careful. Don't show it in front of your kids because it's just – I got in trouble with that. It was a family party, and I turned his on. It just wasn't good. But, so we'll see you guys next week. Hopefully myself and Mykel will both have winning mentalities, but we'll see what happens. So we'll see you guys next week. Have a good rest of your week. Stay safe. We'll talk to you guys later.